What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dog Check. I am Max Loeb. Loeb's Leads here with Eric Metcalf. It is 70 degrees in Cleveland right now, Eric. This is the most beautiful I've seen the city since it might be September. It's unbelievable here. How are you doing? How is the great state of Washington?
It's okay. It's probably like 50s, almost 60s. At least it's 70 there now because when I was there the other day, I went through a hailstorm, a little light snow, and everything. And then I was scared I wasn't going to be able to fly out of there on Friday.
Yeah, the flights were bad. I came back, I think, 3 or 4 days before during that big, the thunderstorm warning and watch and everything. And thankfully, I flew very early in the morning, so the weather wasn't that bad. But it was bad last week, for sure. The city of Cleveland is absolutely rocking, though, with the women's Final Four, the Eclipse. The Guardians home opener was yesterday. I was there. It was a lot of fun. The city. Yeah. Yes. How was that? How was this thing at the Hall of Fame?
I didn't go. I just know it was there. But
Oh,
you mean the Q&A?
Yes, the Q&A. Yeah.
The Q&A at the Hall of Fame was great. It was cool. There was I think about maybe 60 people in there.
There you go.
Really because of the time constraints, they never got to ask any questions, the fans themselves. But we had a moderator who did, and it was me, Josh Cribbs, Dino Hall, and Gerald McNeil. I guess I would say Cleveland Browns return royalty.
Yes, that's exactly what came to mind.
That's how I would phrase this. And so we were in there just talking about returns and the new rules and just how we felt about being returners for Cleveland.
What was the consensus on the new rule? Good, bad?
I think everybody liked it. Everybody likes it. Everybody likes the fact that it's going to be returned. And then, guys who are really kick returners, say like a Josh, he likes the fact that if you get through there, you can be gone.
Yeah.
Right. And, we're all of us, we're more like punt returners more so. We all like punt return more than kick. Josh was the lone guy who would pick kick returns over punt return.
Yeah. Well, the kick return world is going to be a lot more fun to watch now. That is for sure, especially considering the I think the 5-yard separation, like we talked about a little bit, you can design it as a run play now almost. You can, design your pullers. You can send it to one side of the field and have somebody read from the backside of this guy to the next guy. Like you could draw it up like a run play. I think coaches are going to love it. This is going to be the year where special teams coaches make their money. I know we talked about that too.
Yeah. And once again, you can now put one of your superstar guys back there. You can put a Tyreek Hill back there because he's less likely to get injured. It's more like a regular football play than it was a collision from 40 yards away, right? And so I think with that in mind, returners might be a dying breed if that's all you do. You're going to have to really be a football player to get back there now, and that's going to make it tough on a lot of guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when you look at the Browns roster, there are probably a couple guys that stick out as returners, not just from their return ability last season. Who do you think is going to get, or I guess it could be more than one, but which returners do you think we'll see early on in the season then for the Browns?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, shoot, who would I want back there?
Who do you want?
The question, I don't know. Just looking at this roster, I think, Pierre Strong could do it. Who else do we have?
I was thinking Nyheim Hines is my big guy.
I forgot about him. Yes.
Yeah.
He's done a good job when he's done it. So yeah, Nyheim Hines as well. I forgot about him. That's right.
Yeah.
I'd probably pick him first. Yes.
Okay. And also I think the draft is a not a question mark, but receiver is going to be a priority in the draft. Where they take him, we wait to see. But maybe that's a guy they try to look at too. Somebody who's a little bit faster, somebody who's more dynamic. I think we talked about that ability to take the top off the defense. You got Jerry Jeudy to do it, but can you have a pure speed guy to do it, to take safeties out of the frame? Could be a draft need. But before we talk any more about the draft, there is some Browns news to cover. The Cleveland Browns are expected to pick up Greg Newsome's 5th-year option, keeping him in Cleveland, for one more year, maintaining probably the best secondary in the NFL. I think we can agree there. What did you make of that news? It's not official yet, but what did you make of that news?
I feel good about it. I mean, because, he was one of the people they were talking about trading and getting rid of. And so by giving him this option, we're keeping this defensive backfield intact. We already kept the defensive line intact. Now we're keeping the back four intact, and that's needed. And so when you have a player like him who's a starter who can play slot or outside, he is a vital point of that defense. And so I'm glad that we're able to keep him because we're just trying to get better.
Yeah.
You're a better football team if you have better football players. And he's one of the best out there. And so, like you said, to keep all these guys together, I'm all for it. And it looks good for where we're heading in the future.
Yeah, I think the immediate future, we've talked about this a bunch. It's win now. You have the roster to do it. Defense is give or take almost the same as last year, and that's awesome. It was an elite unit last year. We saw what they could do, especially when they're playing at their best. Offensively, I think just de facto based off of what you had last year with the injuries, the quarterback situation, losing Nick Chubb, it has to almost be better, at least with the players that you're putting on the field week one. You get your tackles back. So, again, a better team overall, but maintaining that secondary, I think, is so huge because we talk about the defensive line, how important it is. And at the end of the day, like, they are the reason, I think, and I think you'd agree with me that the Browns defense is so good. They're the catalyst. They get after the quarterback. They stop the run. They put teams in bad third and longs where you can let guys go cover. But I do think the quote unquote letting guys cover can just be overlooked because you still got to have the guys that can cover. And I think we saw at times Greg Newsome on the outside. We didn't really know what it was like, but I think he found that sweet spot playing inside, playing that nickel position. I think it is almost a must add moving forward too, unless they feel like they have a younger defensive back on the roster. If they can keep him for a non-hefty price, which is going to be hard to do, I think keeping him in Cleveland long-term is the best thing for the division. I know you're not here to count people's pockets, but what do you think about keeping him long-term?
I want to keep him long-term. Once again, if we're talking about keeping this defense together and giving us a chance to win, we have to keep these guys for the long term and or do the best we can to try to keep them. We have to, because this defense is a defense that, if the offense isn't playing well, still always gives you a chance to win games.
Yes.
Right? And so everybody talks about defense wins championships. Well, we have a defense that can win championships. Let's keep them together and hope the offense catches up to it.
Yes.
Right? So they played well this past year. I think moving forward they can continue to play well because these guys are now also getting older. They're becoming KG veterans. They know how to go throughout the course of the season. And so if we can keep these guys together and they continue to get better under Schwartz's system, the sky's the limit.
The sky is very much the limit. And I think we saw the Browns touch the sky at points last year. Like that was a unit, like you said. One, you can keep teams in game, keep your offense in the game. But two, you can almost single-handedly win a game. The one that comes to mind for me is probably the Niners game. I thought there was not a point where the 49ers matched up against the Browns up front, even with Trent Williams playing before he went out with an injury. It was clear to see they didn't have it up front. After that first drive, it was nothing. It was nothing for the 49ers offensively. That's the game that sticks out to me. I also just think that playing at home in front of the fans, obviously the Browns defense was better at home last year. It's an added element that you can't really, I don't know if predict is the right word, but you can't really factor in when you talk about how good a defense is, especially when it was so night and day last year. Playing in front of the dog pound, that defense was a different animal. It's the noise, it's the confidence, it's honestly the comfortability too, just being there, sleeping in your own bed throughout the week, whatever it may be. I'm sure you can attest to that too. Probably much easier playing at home, right?
Yeah, of course, because you just feel better. Everything seems more comfortable. When you're on the road, you're comfortable as a player and you feel good about going out there on the field, but things are still uncomfortable because it's not your place. It's not your home setting. And so when you're at home, you just feel good about everything. The juices are amplified. And so it's just a more relaxed situation. That's why I like the fact that this defense can play well at home, because you got to protect your house. If you protect your house, you give yourselves a chance of getting to the playoffs. And so this defense in itself, it's one of those defenses that all you really have to do is tell the offense, get us like 17 points.
Yeah.
You get us 17 points, we'll win this game. And I feel good about that. I think we'll get more points than that.
I hope.
But if you know you only have to get like 17 and you have a chance to win the game, you got to feel good about that.
You do. And I think when you look at like the 49ers game comes to mind again, it was 19-17. You didn't need the offense to do much. I think they scored one touchdown, kicked 4 field goals. Your defense is good enough to do that. And that was an offense with, PJ Walker. It was an offense with Joe Flacco at times, DTR. It's just about doing enough. I think when you look forward to this coming season, like you talked about, 17 points is not the standard. I think we can all agree on that, especially with everybody healthy and with what you expect from Deshaun Watson, the new weapons. Like, that is not a lofty goal to have 17 points. But I do think the combination of the defense's ability, frankly, to get off the field on third down and force 3 and outs, but get off the field on third down, that becomes a field position thing. And when you have a guy like Dustin Hopkins, I don't think his importance can be overstated either. You feel comfortable as soon as you get to 35-ish, 30-yard line. Like, you're going to get points. And obviously you want to score touchdowns, and maybe you don't want to be conservative when you get into that range, but having that confidence within you to say, hey, if it's third and long, we don't like a read here, Deshaun, just check it down, we'll kick a field goal, fine, so be it, right?
Yeah, and that's all I'm talking about. By no means am I saying I want us to just think 17 points is what's going to win us every game. I want us to go score 30, 40 points if we can every game. I'm just talking about the fact that if you have a defense like that, 17 points should do it.
Yes.
Right? Because that's how they played all last year. And like I said, we're hoping that they'll be a little better this year. And if they are a little better, I feel like 17 points is a gold standard. We don't want it, but it is a gold standard when you're talking from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Browns games from last year now. You see 24, 22, 27. Obviously, they lost when they scored 3. 19 with a win. You got 13 in a win, 20 in a win. Like, there were times last year where that was a reality, which is crazy to think, especially, when you look at financially, at least, where the money is going. You think, okay, it should be pretty even. Like, you shouldn't have to rely on one unit more than the other. And I think we'll see more of that this coming year. But it wasn't always the case last year. But as we move into the offseason, I think there are a lot of question marks. And we talked about it last week at the receiver position, because you felt like regardless of who was back there running the football, you could be efficient. Like, you could get 4 or 5 yards a carry, regardless of who was playing tackle, again, regardless of who was in the backfield. You felt comfortable in that. And, as you move into this year, hopefully Nick Chubb is back week 1, but if he's not, the guys they have, a healthy offensive line, you feel comfortable with that. Where the Browns lacked, though, was that deep threat. In the past couple weeks, Eric, I'm wondering, have you seen anybody from the pro days, anybody from their combine stuff that has popped to you? Because I know we talked about Xavier Worthy probably like a month ago, maybe. He is going to fly up draft boards. I don't know if he'll be there for the Browns early to mid-second. Is there anybody else that you have your eye on?
There aren't. I've only really looked at the top few guys, because that's all they've really talked about. And it's one of those situations where it doesn't always have to be a top guy.
Yeah.
It has to be a guy who fits in your system and can make plays, i.e. Puka Nacua.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Nobody expected him to be who he was, but they put him in that Sean McVay offense, and he made plays because Sean McVay schemed for him, made game plan for him, and he was able to make plays. And that's all we need, is somebody who can come in here and make plays. In the last year, I think we were one of the lowest teams as far as separation. From a receiver standpoint, right? And so we're asking a quarterback to make perfect throws every play because we have no separation. So with that in mind, it doesn't have to be a guy who has to be a barn burner. They don't have to run by everybody, as long as we're scheming these guys open too. So I'm just looking for somebody who can come out there, be consistent, get some separation, and make plays.
You were listening to the Dog Check presented by BetOnline. Eric, again, we talk about the need for a deep threat, right? You look at the draft. You aren't seeing a ton of other guys that you like. You think there's still somebody out there in free agency, or do you think the answers are already on the roster? Because it's a very real thing to look at the Browns and the offseason moves they've had and say, we got a pretty good roster here to begin with.
We do, but at the same time, I think the receiver class is top heavy. There are a bunch of guys who are going to go early in the draft, but I think there are always some little diamonds in the rough that you can find, like a Puka Nacua. He was a guy that nobody really talked about, but Sean McVay drafted him, put him in his offense, schemed him open, and he was able to make plays. So there are always guys that you can find that you can put in this situation. I think if you go out there and give somebody a chance, there's somebody out there who can be a Puka Nacua type. He might not catch as many balls, but still can be explosive and make plays. And that's all we need is somebody who's explosive. So when I'm talking about the draft and looking for a receiver, it doesn't have to necessarily be a big name guy. I just need somebody to be who can fit my offense. We need to be someone who can fit my offense and make plays. And if I can find that, then I'm good with it.
Exactly. I'm with you too. And this is non-Browns related, but you talk about big name receivers. How about Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans? That happened a few days ago. That blew me away. I was speechless opening my phone up to see that. It was an unbelievable move, but there has been a lot more backlash than I thought that it would be. Like, I saw it. I was like, this is great for the Texans offense. I mean, the Texans offense is going to be unbelievable. Great for the Texans. They wipe out the last 3 years on his contract. So it's basically a 1-year deal with a really good team and a quarterback who's really good on a rookie deal. What do you make of the deal? Did you think it was a very good home run deal, or do you have those same feelings of I don't know?
I think it's a home run deal.
Okay, as long as we're on the same page.
I think it's a push your chips in kind of deal. I mean, because though he might have been struggling towards the end in Buffalo, he wasn't getting as many attempts as he had been in the previous year, and so he was frustrated. He was frustrated how it went. He was frustrated how the season went. So now he gets to come to an offense where they have a very good coordinator, a very good quarterback, as we have seen, and play with a good core of receivers as well. All right?
Yes.
You're talking about Nico Collins. You're talking about Tank Dell coming back. And then you have Stephon Diggs. A happy Stephon Diggs. I think this bodes well for what they're trying to do.
I think so too. And it's like you look at where the Texans are now, and my biggest agenda I always try to push, maximize your rookie deals. That is exactly what the Texans are doing because they drafted unbelievably well the past few years. Obviously, C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson, but I think people forget about Tank Dell. Nico Collins is also on a rookie deal. You're maximizing some of the best talent you have on your roster while you're still able to add guys like obviously Stephon Diggs, but Danielle Hunter. You're able to lock up Laramie. This is a really good team. I think when you look at the elite teams in the AFC, it is Baltimore, it is Cleveland, it is Houston. I don't know. Who are you going to put anybody else in there? Truly elite teams? Because I'm a big I shouldn't say believer. I trust the Jets to win a lot of games. I do think the Jets have a lot of really good things in place. I don't know if they're truly elite though.
So we're just going to assume Kansas City is elite. We don't have to talk about them.
Yes. Oh yeah. No. Yeah.
We don't have to talk about them. Okay. Okay. Just making sure because you didn't mention them. So
they're not worth my breath. We get it. They're probably going to three-peat. Okay. I hope not, but they probably will.
So I feel good. I think it'll be a little different this year for the Dolphins. I feel better about them. I think they're a good team, and I think they'll figure it out, And so I feel, but like you said, it's top heavy.
Yeah,
it's top heavy, and most of the teams are in our division.
Yeah,
right. Unfortunately, so You never know what you're going to get. You got to play the games in between the white lines, but it looks like these teams in the AFC are trying to push all their chips in and stack their teams up because they know how these other teams are working and what they're doing and trying to improve. Because, like you said, Kansas City is the gold standard in the AFC. Everybody knows what they have to do to try to compete with them.
Yeah, they are the gold standard. That is for sure. I am fascinated to see how that all turns out, though, because it's top heavy. And you look at the AFC North, 3-4 of those teams are playoff teams. Only one of them is going to get the AFC North crown. And all of a sudden, you're going to have 3 really good teams competing with other wild card teams like whoever doesn't win the AFC South, whether it's Indy, Jacksonville. If somehow the Houston Texans don't win it, maybe they're in it. You got whoever doesn't win the AFC East. I still think Buffalo is a decent team. I still think they got some really good pieces. And anytime you got Josh Allen, you got a chance. Miami, if the Jets don't win it, like it's going to be a very, very competitive area. And it's crazy comparing that to the NFC because you start to play these games with the NFC wildcard teams now where you're looking at, granted, the Chicago Bears have had a very good offseason, but you're looking at the Chicago Bears who have the first overall pick potentially sneaking in as a wild card team. Like, it's insane to me. If Minnesota, who lost Kirk Cousins, potentially, like, the NFC is miles behind the AFC. Sometimes I wish there were no conferences, just the 14 best teams, right?
Right. I guess we all do when it's in your favor.
Yes.
Right. When it's not in your favor, you don't want it to be like that. But, it's a situation where when it's all said and done, teams have to put the best roster they can in place and go out there and win games they're supposed to win and win a few games they're not supposed to win. And if you do that in the end, then it bodes well for your team. When I look at the Browns, I think we're in a situation where we have a very good team. We have to learn how to win games on the road. Defense has to travel on the road. And if we can do that, then we'll be in a very good place because we've shown that we can win at home. We can play well at home. We have to go, like I said, win games that we're not supposed to win and do it in a good fashion.
Yeah, in a good fashion is very important. But as we talk about the home and away games, there was some news that broke about hour and a half ago. Packers president Mark Murphy, who is also their team, also on the schedule to play the Eagles on the road this year, seemed to hint that they are going to be the team traveling to Brazil, not the Browns. Obviously, we won't know officially for months. But if the Browns don't travel to Brazil, that does mean they play a real road game in Philly. You lose the neutral road game that could have been had if they went to Brazil. I don't know. If that's the case, I don't think it's as big of a deal as someone would make it. But I do think a neutral road game matters. Like, I think if the Browns were to play in Brazil and have that neutral road game, opening game in a different country, like, definitely take the edge out of it, especially if it's in Philadelphia. I don't know. If that's the case, I'm going to kind of be sad. I'm not going to lie.
I'm only going to be sad because it's a trip that I'd be willing to take.
Yeah, me too, I think. Yeah.
I'd be willing to take that trip to that game just because, it's something different. But I'm not so sure that they can't beat Philly in Philly, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I feel good about it. I mean, if Philly is going to have to be better than they were towards the end of the year, right? Yeah. And I think it's one of those games where our defense, like we said, will have to travel, have to play well on the road because Philly offers a lot of different things on offense. And we just have to be able to score some points. They lost some people, and so I feel good about us winning wherever we play them.
Yeah, I feel good too. I do think when you look at the Eagles, it's tough to truly say if they got better or if they got worse. I think their defense got better, but you obviously look at the addition of Saquon Barkley as an enormous addition for their offense. But what's going to happen with A.J. Brown? You lose Jason Kelce now. He retires, right? Like, there are some question marks, and I do think people tend to overlook the year that Jalen Hurts had last year. I think it was primarily a coordinator issue, but Jalen Hurts, again, had a year last year that was more underwhelming, especially compared to 2 years ago. But I'm with you. I don't know if there are truly any teams on the Browns schedule that I feel like they cannot beat. Like, I look at a team like there's no way they can beat them. I feel like with that defense, they can beat anybody. Will they beat everybody? No. I feel like with the defense, they can.
I'm 100% correct. I agree, for sure. They can beat anybody. It's like you said, will they beat these people? Because, I mean, they're sometimes styles make fights.
Yeah.
You go out there with a team is game plan well against you, and you're not able to do anything about it. And it just happens sometimes in the NFL.